Velasquez.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, this amendment asks the city manager to investigate the feasibility of an equity anti-displacement overlay. Also, I would like to thank city staff for moving swiftly on this, as they've reported back that they have already initiated internal conversations on next steps to this amendment.
Councilmember Velasquez moves approval of Velasquez motion to amend number 1 to item number 6. It is seconded by Councilmember Fuentes. Further discussion. Councilmember Velasquez, do you have any further discussion? Councilmember Allison Alter, and then Councilmember Vela.
Councilmember Velasquez, I appreciate you bringing this forward. I think while I wish we could adopt the equity overlay today for this, I think it addresses the very real disparate impacts that this proposal is going to have, and recognizes the need that this is not equitable as it moves forward.
Councilmember Vela.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to support the amendment. I just wanted to comment that California in particular has had these kinds of tools, even stronger tools. They have the ability to use inclusionary zoning. Many cities in California have used these kinds of tools over the last few decades, and they have not had good results. They do kind of freeze in place development, but ultimately the price of both single-family homes and apartment rentals, where we have seen these tools used around the nation, Massachusetts, another state, New York also has very similar measures, they have not been successful. Ultimately, when I look around the country and I see where working class people have been able to more affordably purchase or rent a home, the market-based supply is just such a critical factor for affordability. Like I said, I support the amendment. I just wanted to add, one more thing in terms of the equity overlay. I have real concerns with giving economic benefits to people in one part of town and then essentially denying those same economic benefits to people in another part of town. Most Americans' home is their single greatest asset. And when you look at black and brown households in particular, they don't have life insurance, they don't have as many kind of mutual funds, financial assets. They really, really rely on the value of their home to build wealth and to build generational wealth. And so when I look at the changes that we're making, I see them as pro working class people, pro homeowners that want to use their property to split it, to invite family members, to rent it out. So again, I want staff to look at it, but in my 10, 12 years of looking at these issues and working on them, and again, it's not ideological or anything like that. It's just that this has been tried before across the country and has just, quite frankly, not been successful. Very interested to hear what staff has to say when they bring back the report, though.
Thank you, Councilmember. Further discussion, Councilmember Ellis.
Yeah, I appreciate this item and we'll be supporting it. I know there's been some conversation, as we've heard from speakers and discussed this on the dais, about the uprooted tool and some of just the changes that have happened since that tool was studied, and how old is the data? And I want to make sure that we can see the signs of the time and understand where to focus our energy and our resources, our staff time, our affordable housing bond dollars to prevent further displacement. And so I'm really eager to see what sort of information comes back from this.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Harper-Madison.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to say that I'd offer my absolute support for the item, but for what it's worth, just to revisit history a little bit. I already did this, and it didn't work then, in which case, while I'm optimistic, I'm hoping for the best. But while I can appreciate that members of our community have such deep concern, any implication that we weren't already trying, I literally, alongside my colleagues, already tried to bring forward an equity overlay, and it didn't work. So my hope is that something changed in between then and now. But to Councilmember Vela's point, there was no shortage of the application of real time and effort. And there was no shortage of deep research and us really leaning on members of our, professional consulting, I guess, stable of sorts. And we were diverse with it. So I have high hopes that we have found a way to assuage their fears and really, to Councilmember Alton Alter's point, really make certain that the potential for real harm here, that we do our best to mitigate it. But I already did this. And so while I have high hopes, I also am admittedly slightly skeptical. So I look forward to seeing what comes back. But I'd also like to say, you know, as the city is underground, the kind of rapid growth and change that we have, and sometimes people say over a short time, it hasn't been short. I'm from here, I'm 47 years old. I've been watching the city grow and change for nearly 50 years now. It wasn't fast, it wasn't short. This didn't just happen. So when people imply those things, I really have to take a step back and offer my community as much grace as they deserve. But also, I hope that can be mutual at some point. As our land development code up until this point, it's been living since I was 3 years old. And at this moment, we have a brilliant city staff, and we have council that's determined to get things done. Our council staffers are brilliant. Our city staffers are brilliant. I think this iteration of this body is the one that I feel the most optimistic about. So with that said, I think the moment for change is now, and I look forward to continuing the momentum by really seeking whatever tools are possible to provide more attainable, more diverse housing types in every part of the city. But to be clear, between what Councilmember Vela just said and what somebody who said this yesterday, and I don't know that I entirely agreed with her testimony, I do think it's important to be clear. Blackness and brownness is not synonymous with poverty. It's universal. And so I really don't like that we marginalize the conversation around marginalized humans and just assume Black and brown people are the only. Listen, we have people all over this town who look like all sorts of things, who come from all sorts of backgrounds, who are deeply embedded in the kind of poverty that they won't come out of without the assistance of our community. So my hope is that we can be a little more inclusive when we have conversations about addressing poverty, about addressing accessible options for all homeowners and renters. I really appreciate how many people are saying renters. We keep saying homeowners, like those are the exclusive population of people. In a majority renter city, I think that's actually sort of a skewed approach. That said, though, I know for a fact that the home initiative is not enough, but I also know that my colleagues who have worked so hard on this, they worked really hard on it, and they were very considerate throughout the course of the process. So I recognize that we have to work forward together and prioritize and expand upon our strategies that create more housing in historically exclusive, high opportunity areas of town. So you guys have already said it, but thank you for our city staff for working this hard. It must feel thankless to get this much work in and work this hard, and for us to still be not having folks recognize how much effort you put into it. So just so you know, we see y'all and we appreciate you. So thank you to my colleagues for your diligence. Thank you to our staff. And frankly, thank you to our community members. I need to double down on this. I'm not afraid of smoke. I encourage people to come to City Hall and engage with us, but I also encourage them to do so respectfully. Nobody should walk away feeling like they were disrespected. So moving forward, as we approach the finish line, I hope we can be more productive in our efforts together.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Velasquez, I'll recognize you to close on your motion to amend. Well, he moves passage. Without objection, Velasquez motion to amend number 1 to item number 6 is adopted. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Velasquez, and thanks for your work. We will now go to Councilmember